Welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the podcast fueled by coffee. Joining me today are two of our four co-hosts, Mr. Mark Kawasaki, Mr. Matt Hooper. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt as well. There's two Matts here. It's a coincidence.
Baron and Hoop.
Baron and Hoop, two of the three original amigos. So last week I posted something, or 2 weeks ago I posted something on my blog complaining about how expensive analysts were and how no one should have to use them and how we should all just be analysts for each other and give each other advice.
Yes.
And I
confusingly said, well, I got to figure out how I can get paid for that when you just talked about how you hate paywalls.
Yep. And that's tough. It really is. But I think, and I see people like the Atlanta ITSMF chapter member of the year doing, which is helping out other people in the industry in the same industries, right, Mark?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, okay.
That's a sexy title.
So you're gonna bite. You're gonna bite on that one.
I think we already discussed it like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but they sent out an email with your name in it now, so now it's like official and everyone knows. So do you have to compete?
HDI local chapter member of the year.
I didn't do very good at the bathing suit competition though.
So is it like spelling bee? Now you have to go to nationals or whatever and they pay your way there?
No. I was just kind of like held down at the local level, which is fine.
Oh yeah, they won't let you rise up and own ITSMF nationally.
No, not
Did
yet.
they let you speak for free at Fusion?
Probably not. No.
It's funny. So what Hooper's referencing.
They're still gonna make me pay and speak.
Yeah. The Ken, I think it was Ken Wendell. I think that's right.
Yeah.
He sent Hooper got an direct invite from Ken Wendell. Hey, are you gonna speak this year? And I didn't read the backstory, so shame on me. I should have saw what you forwarded on to us. But you said, hey, you should talk to the other co-hosts of this amazing podcast I'm on. It was very nice of you, Hooper. Very thoughtful.
Always shamelessly tell you.
And so I started to craft a response to just the other co-hosts and say, I wonder how much they charge. And then I realized that's dumb. I'm just making fun of Ken behind his back then. So instead I responded all with Ken on there and said, how much does it pay?
Yes.
And the answer, of course, is nothing.
To which, as I'm reading on my phone, I literally laughed out loud. And then my wife wants to know, what's so funny? And trying to explain that is like ridiculous. Because
It's tough,
But
though.
yet I just did it on a podcast.
That's right.
It's tough because we talk about sharing and how we should support each other in the community, and yet we want to get paid at the same time. It's still a little tough. I think at least travel and hotels should be paid for.
Yeah.
At least, but they don't even offer that. None of the conferences do unless you're special.
So, Baron, to just to give you the vote of confidence, my wife completely agrees with you, and people should get paid for their time, since you're taking your time away from your beautiful wife and beautiful kids, and in your intellect and sharing with everybody else that they're charging for and making money off of. She felt you should be paid to do that.
It makes sense. That's why we're employed.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who does this on a regular basis for money, I expect money after I give advice. I do. Usually we deliver more than just an hour-long presentation, though. Like, if I ask someone to pay me for that, that's sort of like a business development call.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're doing this without expecting a return in monetary value. I think, to me, it's more about the fact that the organization is making money and not returning it to the people who are helping them make that money.
Yeah, no one is profiting off of this through monetary gains as part of a corporation. This is consumer to consumer. This is bartering.
But my social brand value is screaming through the roof.
How's the ROI? Someone send us an email, host@hackbiztech.com. Tell us what the ROI is of this podcast.
Yeah.
Please, so we can keep going.
How much attention do you have to give for this to actually be useful? My hair looks especially crazy today. I apologize for the way I look.
So nice.
It's the work from home do.
Oh man, this week has been tough. We got 2 project delays right in a row, and it's all from the customer end. So it's hard to listen to those people go through the organizational struggles, and it's sort of like it's sort of like if your mechanic said, for $100 a month, I'll do all the maintenance on your car all the time, or you can just pay for it when you need it. And you said no to the $100 a month, and then you're coming in for $300, and you're like, this is way too much. Why didn't I just pay the $100 a month? It's sort of, I hate to say I told you so, but you should have seen the writing on the wall, because we told you where it was and read it out loud to you. Like, this is where you're going to struggle, and you need to buy this from us so that you won't struggle. You at least need one more person to do training or culture change or whatever. So that's difficult. It's difficult to go through. But I digress. So this blog post, I actually got a good response from Lydia Long, who I asked to be on the podcast, and she said that she probably couldn't get on the podcast because she works for Gartner. And so that means you have a lawyer that has to approve everything that you say.
So,
what kind of?
So we have to go back and erase Gerard's.
Yeah, I think that's actually episode. Is that episode 1? Was he the
That
first?
was episode 1, right?
Oh
Yeah.
man, we rate so many guests over the goals.
Yeah.
There's no link to episode 1 on our website either, so I feel like we're being held down in some way.
No, there is. There's a link on there. If you go to hackbiztech.com, click on episodes, it's on there.
Okay.
And if there isn't, go to the iTunes link up at the top, because that'll have
up
it
in
for
6
sure.
waivers, you'll eventually see a video.
So basically, my point was, why do you need analysts? And she responded with a really well-crafted answer that basically I can summarize it. Something rooted relatively non-technical management, being unsure who to trust within the organization, especially if there's disagreement between engineers. It's nice to have this third party, a cold truth, someone that isn't entrenched in the organizational dysfunction of the company already. And then she actually draws in the conclusion, or draws into it, the fact that some people actually do have analysts that do this sort of thing, that are supposed to be able to guide leaders in strategy discussions and not be tied to the culture and the entrenchment, but they still are.
Okay, but why does that argument not work in the consumer space? Because it doesn't at all. I mean, there's that one guy, I forget his name, but he was named, the top reviewer on the planet today, and he's 17, and he just reviews consumer products. And he is what you want to listen to if you want to buy something in the consumer space. Why is it different in the corporate space? Only because consumer corporate employees aren't talking, right? So if they were, would her argument still be valid?
Oh, you think like it's a privacy thing. Like when I worked for a medical device company, I felt like I couldn't share what we were doing because...
Regardless of the reason, it's just not being shared. So analysts are the only option sometimes.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think they would have less of a place if it was easier to share that information. Like if there was a community board or something where I could go on and say...
Yeah. Right now there's a community board for BMC, there's a community board for CA, but there's very few community boards that have all of them together, and you can compare the products.
That are started by the people, operated by the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that comes down to the shortage of attention and the amount of time that people are willing to dedicate to that outside of their 8-hour workday.
Yeah, I mean...
There's no standards and poors, right? There's no S&P 500. There's no, it's unlike the cars and washing machines and other manufacturing goods that can be rated based on quality tests, usability. There's nothing in the enterprise software space that does, I think, a really great job of that. So it's left to researchers and analysts to first come up with the criteria and then to do the evaluation. And I think that's the problem with the analysis, right? Is you don't have this. You don't have one party creating the criteria and then another party giving you the analysis.
That's very interesting. I think what stands out to me in that is that these products, software itself, before the iPhone, basically, before 2007, software was all over the place. Then it had some constraints that basically invented mobile applications, and then you could talk about it more easily apples to apples, because It's not software in general. People have plenty of reviews of mobile apps that are available to the public and compare those all day long all over the internet, right? But for some reason, enterprise apps, they don't. It's interesting. But what's interesting to me is that constraints. When the iPhone came out and it was, okay, here's the form factor, you can't do anything with the app except this, all of a sudden, innovation blew up. It's interesting to me how constraints can actually cause innovation to blow up.
But interesting.
You bring up a good point. Like, imagine, for instance, though, that Apple, besides reviews, because anybody can give reviews, you could star it and whatever, but imagine that they showed also trending, like, not only how many times the app was downloaded, but how many times it was open, or how long or how many hours it was the primary app on the mobile interface.
Yeah.
You know, not just running, but like physically the front and center of the screen. Because that's a huge difference in your evaluation of an application. If you said that this Instagram, for instance, I imagine is a app that is downloaded a lot and front and center on screens because people are using it all the time. So that tells you something, right?
Well, of course, and the fact that it's mobile doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's about if it's sanctioned by your organization. I mean, you can't just choose to use Remedy or ServiceNow or whatever, bounce around between apps on your phone in a corporation because it won't do you any good, right? It's not
viable.
Yeah.
Right. But it's funny because it was Paul Hardy had put out a statistic about the different browsers that were being used in this environment. And I said, well, those are great stats, but how many mobile users do you have? Because that's, to me, that's a big complaint about ServiceNow is its mobile interface. So I was very curious to know. And he says less than 2%, we're an office-based organization. But I'm saying to myself, people in the office are still using mobile apps all the time.
Yeah. Geography doesn't know anything about device. But yeah, I love Paul's stuff. He kind of wags the dog a little bit too, so I kind of live vicariously through that. And he's a big fanboy of that one tool that we can't mention because they don't pay us enough money to mention it. But man, if you're technology agnostic, now is the time to be technology agnostic because stuff is not getting cheaper right now.
Yeah.
It would be interesting, though, if you could choose, for example, your service management tool as an individual, and then people within the organization could compare experiences.
Yep, we've talked about this before, like just making your employees, they have to provide you with a data. Like it's similar to when you're setting up a CMDB. You have to give me this data in this format with these fields, and these fields are formatted in such a way, and give it to me in XML. And if you could do that on a personal level and say, tell me what information you want to get out of my Matt Barron API, and my employer can just suck it in.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now, if that was the case, analysts would take a serious hit, I think, because then we would start talking.
Well, then you would have quantitative data to actually say, is it working and is it usable? Because users and consumers tell us if things don't work.
I'll say.
When I talk about marketing and my marketing methodology of Arrive, I use V for voice, and the voice of the customer isn't always someone who tells you that your product stinks. The voice may also be metrics that say they go to your website, or they download your product but then they delete it, or they don't renew their license. I mean, that's also the voice of the customer, right? So the more metrics you can have, the more data you can analyze about frequency of use, complaints, all those things in context, that tells you.
Actions speak louder than feedback forms.
Yeah, how long do people keep their Toyotas versus keeping their Chevys? That says people like Toyotas because they keep them longer, for instance.
I love it. I'm sure you have the statistics to back that up. Okay, we're on to another topic because I think we successfully hashed that one over. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have been paying a lot of attention to what's happening in Ferguson, but there's a lot of demonstrating going on and a lot of policing, and I really won't get into the politics of it because it's depressing. It's so depressing to watch, and a lot of people will talk about racism and what America has created, and it's so systemic, and I can't even touch it with a 30-foot pole because number one, I don't know that much about it, and number two, I'm not there. But if you want to pay attention to it, just check out Twitter. It's all over. Just search #Ferguson. It's everywhere. But there is some cool stuff that you should know, so I'll put these in the show notes, because when it comes to police militarization, I think it's important to understand what you're working with, and from a hacking business technology standpoint, this may be one way that you need to defend yourself. If you're in a remote office in Ferguson, Missouri today, these are the things that you should probably be paying attention to. Know your rights when engaging with law enforcement, so there's a good link that the ACLU puts out about what you can and cannot do when there's martial law and non-martial law. Getting generators and batteries, you're going to need it if you don't have power. Faraday bags, so if they actually did set off an electronic pulse emitter or an electromagnetic pulse to kill devices, these are those little static bags that used to get hard drives in. It'll actually protect your cell phone from getting destroyed from an electromagnetic pulse. Absolutely fantastic. They're called Faraday bags. You can get them on Amazon. $30 for a 20 by 20.
Can I get an outfit made of that?
So I just started watching Revolution, you know, the series where the EMP took out all electronic devices, and they had to revert back to like revolutionary days.
Yeah.
It's, you know, at first I was kind of like, this is the most ridiculous show, but something was addictive about it, and I kept watching it. But as I continued to watch it, I started to realize this is more and more plausible than I thought it would probably be. You know,
it's horrible.
Yeah, could be.
But it's good to know. I mean, it's just good stuff to know, because if the internet goes down, you're not gonna be able to find the show notes from this podcast.
Yeah, no Netflix.
So I'm sorry if you don't understand Faraday bags, but you're gonna need it. There's also really good guides about how to defend yourself against tear gas. You dilute Maalox with milk or water, half and half, and you spray it on like a handkerchief and put that over your mouth. Always be peaceful. I think that's good advice. If you haven't read Homeland by Cory Doctorow, a previous guest on our previous podcast, absolutely fantastic. He actually predicted all of this. There are technologies to record directly to the internet, including Google Hangout, like what we're doing right here. There's Ustream.com, Justin.tv, and those are really good services for just holding up your phone, and it goes straight to the internet, and it's documented immediately. So if someone takes your device and steps on it or shoots a hole through it, it'll all be online. There's a new technology called GoTenna. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's really cool. It's you pair it via Bluetooth with your iPhone or Android, and you can talk up to 50 miles with it to someone else with another antenna, no matter what. So it's sort of like long-range Bluetooth, and you can send text messages over it, even if the cell phone network goes down, or there's no power, so the entire network is down, or whatever. It's peer-to-peer.
That is so cool for camping.
Yeah, it's huge for camping, because all you need, well, the thing is, the bad part is that everyone needs to have one of the antennas, so it gets a little spendy. And, you know, you can get a $20 decent CD radio, like a handheld CD, on Amazon. I just love them. I want to get a couple more. And then my last tip is to always be prepared to go to jail and keep a lawyer's number handy. Because if you are demonstrating, those two things will probably happen.
That was my favorite one. Thank you, Matt.
So I was showing this off before the podcast, and then I realized that it's gold, so I stopped showing it off right away, but I upgraded. Cote actually posted about this I think it was on his Instagram, speaking of Instagram, but he showed the inside of his water sprinkler system, and I said, "Are you changing it out?" And he goes, "I cannot understand this industry's infatuation with dials." So I don't know if you have an irrigation system, but if you do, it's got a dial on it, and they're really hard to program. I recently upgraded because my buddy here in town works for Toro. He's just up the street, and he gave me a free controller, and it's got a remote. So right now I can tell that Zone 2 is going to water for another 32 minutes. I can turn it on from here. I can turn it off from here. There's a Windows app that I can create a schedule and load the USB schedule. Oh, yeah. Do you actually have an iPad one or no?
No, I don't have an iPad on mine. Of course, mine has technologies that shuts it off when it's raining.
Yeah, and that's nice. It is nice to have that.
I want one that will, run a bath for me.
Oh, those exist now. That Comcast commercial shows that, an internet-connected faucet.
Oh yeah. Oops, I forgot.
Yeah, and if you forget, you just log into your phone. They show it. Let's see. Some dad has it installed, and he asked his son if he wrapped up the house, and then he says, "Yeah, I took care of everything. They're camping."
Oh, when he's like doing it on his phone when he says that.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh no, you didn't. The water's on. This is how he just presses the close house button or whatever, and everything turns on."
It's funny. When we were at Universal Studio a couple weeks ago in Florida, we went to the Terminator show that they have there, and they were showing the whatever the Dicom Industries. I can't remember who it is. In the movie, but
Skynet.
Advancement of the future, and all these different things, and portable devices, and all this stuff that you're looking at now. And this was movie's 25 years old or whatever it is. I was like, that's really funny how accurate some of these things actually were. The video FaceTime that was going on. It was pretty comical.
That's why people love sci-fi that's well written, because it is a good prediction.
Mm-hmm.
I saw there's another app and device now for birth control, I guess, that a woman can have implanted and turn it on and off on her app.
It regulates your temperature so that you can...
Of course, you're hoping it's her that's turning it on and off. I mean, that goes back to the whole Dr. O thing as well, that, what happens if somebody gets control over that or hacks it, or you don't pay your bill.
Or if the remote has a standard password on it, and my neighbor down the street who works for Toro had the same standard password, and I turned on his irrigation system.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Scary.
So that's how you hack business technology. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.